Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here for the Locked On Nationals podcast. Today, it is March 14th, 2022. It is a Monday. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. Going to do more than one video here on the YouTube side. I'm going to put all these together in the audio version. We just wanted to separate these on YouTube because we're going to be talking about different things here on the show today. First of all, the Nationals have signed Nelson Cruz. That's where we have to start. That's what this video is going to be about. Obviously, some other moves have been made too, especially in the pitching realm. We'll get to those in a second video we'll do today, also later on in the podcast if you're listening on the audio version. But we're going to talk about Nelson Cruz signing with the Nationals right after this.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So Mike Rizzo is making moves for the Washington Nationals. And I've seen people responding to kind of some of what the Nationals have been doing and saying, why isn't my team making the moves? Well, it's pretty cool to see the Nats are moving and shaking, even though they're not supposed to be one of the more competitive teams coming up this year, especially in the National League East, where you figure the Braves, as defending champions, want to repeat. The Mets with Steve Cohen are trying to spend as much money as possible and put themselves in position to win. The Phillies want to win also. The Marlins, after their trip to the playoffs 2 years ago, have a nice nucleus, and maybe they'll see what they can do. But the Nationals kind of in that tweener zone, right? 2019 World Series. Want to see, if I said the Marlins went to the playoffs in 2019, I was wrong. They went in 2020. But the Nationals won that 2019 World Series, and so many of those guys are gone. The Nationals are trying to kind of get into that rebuild phase and see where things are going to go. So as I flip my hair right here on the video version, trying to get myself set up and ready to go. Nelson Cruz, that's the big signing to talk about. The Nationals came to an agreement with him. It's a 2-year deal, but functionally it's a 1-year deal. It's a 2-year contract. The first year is worth $12 million, and there is a mutual option at the end of it. If the Nationals decide no, they do not want to pick that option up, they will owe Cruz $3 million. So basically it's going to be a $15 million contract when it's all said and done. At least that is the thought. Nelson Cruz is 41. He'll turn 42 during this major league season in July. Last year, he hit 265 with a 334 on base, a 130 OPS plus, I believe was the number that he had, 130 OPS plus last season. So, drove in 86 runs in total, hit 32 homers. Now, he did struggle during his time in Tampa, but did have a really nice start to the year, hitting 294 with 50 runs driven in and 50 runs driven in, and then 19 home runs for Minnesota. He finishes the year with 32 jacks in total. And so this is a guy that, think about it this way. Nelson Cruz, even though he's 41, has won an accolade every single season since 2013. All-Star, and then All-Star in 13, All-Star in 14, All-Star, 7th in MVP voting. In 2015, All-Star, Silver Slugger, and 6th in MVP voting. 2016, he was top 15 in MVP voting. 2017, All-Star, 10th in MVP voting, Silver Slugger Award. 2018, All-Star. 2019, 9th in MVP, Silver Slugger Award. 2020, he was 6th in the MVP race, Silver Slugger Award. 2021, All-Star. So this is a guy that is, performing at least at some part of the season. He's performing well. Sometimes when a guy wins a Silver Slugger and, is not an all-star, that means his second half was absolutely, nuts. So this is a guy that we know can hit. And, the reasons why this makes sense, right? The DH is here. We got a DH. I've been discussing this. Ironically, my example for why the DH has always been good is I'm like, would you rather see Patrick Corbin hit or Nelson Cruz hit? And sure enough, we're going to get to see Nelson Cruz hit in place of Patrick Corbin. So my kind of example, and actually I recorded the show with Javi Reyes over from Locked On Padres, That's going to be airing tomorrow, unless the Nats make more big moves. Where I made that exact point. I believe I mentioned Nelson Cruz by name. That was before I even knew this was going down. This happened later last night. So when the Nationals, when they get Nelson Cruz, the big question is, what are they getting here? Well, number one, they've made Juan Soto happy. I saw the tweets that were out there right now, and I think there's been a a good amount of. I saw Jesse Doherty from the Washington Post put this out yesterday. He said, "This will probably not surprise you, but hearing tonight that Juan Soto is quote unquote thrilled about sharing the lineup with Nelson Cruz." They called, let's see, also just tweeted today, 23 minutes ago, that Juan Soto was super excited about Nelson Cruz and saying he called Cruz last night to talk about playing together with the Nationals. And Jesse's going to write a story about that this afternoon on the Washington Post. You guys can go check that out. But I think that's the number one thing, is that this is a move that makes Juan Soto happy. Also, I have to mention this too. Both those guys are from the Dominican, from the DR. And I was actually down there recently. I was on family vacation, but I love always talking to people whenever I travel. And there is a high regard for their like anywhere else, for their icons, their heroes. Nelson Cruz, the guy who's really well liked. And a lot of people down there actually, they're kind of unsure about Juan Soto because, how much money that he turned down. But there's such a connection between those guys, between people down there as well, to their baseball heroes, their icons, much like we have here. And so that connection, those two guys together, having 41-year-old, Nelson Cruz, and then obviously the younger Juan Soto together, I think that's a great mentorship. Not like Juan needs it, but just also something that's going to make Juan very happy. And we know right now, while the Nationals are so enthralled, even Mike Rizzo said it yesterday, priority number one is getting Juan Soto back. This is important. I know I'm not mentioning the quality of play. I mentioned a little bit, but I'm not hitting on the quality of play or the protection or the options that Nelson Cruz gives them. But this is number one. Juan Soto is the number one priority for the Nationals, and this making him happy is paramount. So it's good that they've done that. Number two, protection in the lineup. The Nationals last year, look, the weird thing at the end of the year was that the lineup was not really much of an issue for the Nationals toward the back end. The offense actually was pretty good, right? So you think about that and say, well, the offense is pretty good. I've been saying this all offseason. You really don't have to add too many pieces to make this thing interesting or to make it a potentially very good lineup. And last year, in the infield, Josh Bell, and obviously Alcides Escobar was very solid. You add in the outfield that Yadiel Hernandez had a good season. You add that Lane Thomas showed up and did very well. You add that, you got guys like Riley Adams who showed up and contributed. Obviously, the offense was very good in the beginning of the year as well. And you put all of that around our man Juan Soto, that makes the offense very dangerous. Now you've got three guys you can stack together that are really going to be trouble for any pitching staff to get through. Yeah, we talked so much last year about, hey, good luck getting through Soto, Turner, and Schwarber, in whatever order they were in, normally Schwarber, then Turner, then Soto. Good luck getting through those guys 3-4 times a game unscathed. Well, it's not quite that punch, but hey, it's pretty damn good. I mean, when you get to the Soto, Bell, and Nelson Cruz combination, I mean, that's a power hitting group. I saw Matt Wyrick, our friend from NBC Sports Washington, just put on his Twitter. He said over under 90.5 home runs from those guys this season. So I think that is a pretty compelling point that Matt makes, that, hey, this is a group that's going to be able to hit together. It does provide Juan Soto some protection. And also it gives the Nationals a really good, strong core of the lineup, which can be a foundation to see where other guys fit in, right? How does Carter Kieboom perform this season? How does Lane Thomas? Does he bounce back or not bounce back? Does he continue that strong play in that small sample size from last season? What about Victor Robles? Can he bounce back? Carter Kieboom, where is he at? Luis Garcia, we've heard, has lost some weight, and so we'll see if he's more nimble, and that makes him a better offensive player. Does Alcides Escobar keep up? What about Cesar Hernandez? Is he a guy that can step in and provide some good offense? The Nationals have built a good core of the lineup. This is not a place now where we're asking, hey, who's going to protect Juan? Is there anybody else in the lineup that's worth anything? Soto, Bell, and Nelson Cruz. I'm not saying it's the murderers row Yankees. I'm not saying it's, one of the greatest lineups we've ever seen, even in the league right now. But you put, arguably the best hitter in baseball in there with a guy who is career hit machine and also power machine in Nelson Cruz. It's a guy that right now is at 449 home runs. He hit 32 last year. So if Cruz decides that he wants to keep playing, I'm sure he'll have a chance to, at that pace. He's going to hit that mark next year. So I mean, he's on pace to hit 500 home runs in his career and really has maintained that power. And a guy who drove in 86 runs. And then in his last full season, drove in 108 runs. Before that, 97, 119, 105, right? This guy just hits. That's all you have to ask him for. It's great they have a DH now. The Nationals now got the DH, right? He's the modern poster child for the designated hitter, and Kyle Schwarber in some senses too, even though he had some fun moments in the outfield last year. Nelson Cruz is, and also he's a guy who's in his 40s, but you're not too worried because of what they ask him to do. So Juan's excited. They're happy. The other part of this, and we'll get more into this when we talk about a lot of the pitching pieces they brought and some of the pitching pieces and also some of the guys in the field that they brought in. The type of asset that Nelson Cruz is, Juan is thrilled to be playing with Nelson Cruz, right? That's great. That could make this tricky, but if Nelson Cruz is an MVP candidate, just say offensively, just killing it. This guy who's been up there. Let's just say he's an all-star candidate to be a DH, right? Let's just put it like that. And depending on where the Nationals are, they might, trade him away. And a couple of things here. Number one, it could help them rebuild the farm, right? It feels like some of these moves are actually kind of ways the Nationals could rebuild the farm if some of these guys deliver in certain ways. They become assets that the Nationals can then move. Guys like Cishek and Sean Doolittle, if those guys perform well, they could potentially be on the move. Cesar Hernandez, Alcides Escobar, guys that could net you something in the trade market to help you rebuild the farm. Or he's a guy that you might they pick up the option next year if things go really well, right? And say, all right, Nelson, we liked what happened here this year. Hope you did too. Let's come back. Let's run it back. And we're closer to competing in 2023. So I like the fact that this move leaves the Washington Nationals options. It gives them flexibility. The one part they're going to have to navigate is the part of, okay, the relationship between Soto and Cruz. If it's as strong as it seems it is Juan going to be okay with them trading him away potentially for assets? That's one thing, because I think you almost think, unless it's complete end of the line for Nelson Cruz here, which I don't think it is, his career's over and he sucks this year. The Nationals are going to have people pursuing him. And if the season kind of goes for the Nats how we think it might go, then, then he'll be something that other teams want. How the Nats configure, operate, move around, that is going to be something that's very interesting to see. So Nationals get a proven commodity to be a DH in the form of Nelson Cruz. Good signing. I love it for the Nats, the amount of flexibility that it brings them. All right, one word from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at BetOnline and BetOnline.net. It's the best place to get in on the action for the NCAA tournament. If you guys go to BetOnline and BetOnline.net today, you guys can check out all the odds they have. First half odds, second half odds, title odds. All of those things are available now at BetOnline and BetOnline.net. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, that will do it for this video right here. If you're listening on the audio version, we'll talk about the pitchers next. If you're watching on video, go check out the pitchers video. It's also coming out today as well. Once again, Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Nationals podcast. Follow me at @JoshNeighbors_. Find the show wherever you guys get your podcasts and on YouTube as well.